Director Lashevsky.
Here.
Director Reynolds.
Here.
Director Beers. Director Orbitov. Here. And I'm Steve Lawrence. So it looks like we have quorum. Next order of business is the invocation. George, would you?
Could we stand? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of serving on this board. We ask for your guidance, not just with knowledge, Lord, but your wisdom that comes from above. Lord, we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now we'll in unison do the pledges to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Next order of business is public comments. I have first up would be Robert Lilac.
And I talked to you about doing it.
Do you want to do it?
Consent
Okay,
agenda.
all right. Okay, then Dan Hauser.
I was gonna try to follow him.
Is everyone going to follow
Yes.
you?
That's
Okay.
my peanut gallery.
So we will come.
You got one on there that doesn't need to follow.
Okay,
Dan Colcourse.
Dan Colhurst.
Yes.
Okay, please.
How are you guys this morning?
Great.
Dan Colcourse, some of you guys know me, some of you guys don't. I'm with Howard Hughes Corporation. I know we've got some new board members and I just wanted to stop in and say hi, pass out some cards after the meeting and introduce myself. That's it.
Thank you so
Nice to
much. And we'll come back and get the rest of you at probably item 13. I would say. Thank you. Okay, next on the list is to consider and act on any request for adjustments or relief from specific charges imposed by the district. Do we? No? Very good, thank you. Okay, and next we have the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to make on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda and second?
We accept that.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the consent agenda? Verify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And then next item of business 10, receive the regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report. Chris?
Well, good morning. Our report begins on page 16 in your packet. There's nothing really out of the ordinary. I will point out that at the trustees meeting, we did have an issue at the bottom left table, excuse me, on page 17, the bottom left table of water loss that has been adjusted to the proper number. But we had no violations and surface water blend is continuing as requested. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Have any questions? Okay, the next item of business is to receive and discuss the draft of fiscal year 2027 SJRA Woodlands Division budget.
Jim has to leave by 9:00, so we were gonna,
Okay, I guess we need a motion to move item 13 to this one.
Yeah, you don't have to take a motion at your discretion.
Okay, okay, let's do that. Okay, let's start our discussion on consolidating the MUDs.
thanks, everyone. It's nice to be back here. Kind of feels like home. For 15 years, I've been on that side of the dais, looking out at the audience here, and now it's different to be here. I want to talk to you about the study that I did with the help of people here. To give you a little background, early in January, there were 7 of us who met to just talk about the whole subject of consolidation. This subject has been going off and on for many years now. And during incorporation, the subject of consolidation also came up. But the 7 people that met, all of us had strong MUD backgrounds, and it included the attorney that set up the MUDs in the first place, and the attorney which also set up the Woodlands Township, so you probably know his name. And we discussed again the whole concept of merging all 10 MUDs. We quickly came to 2 conclusions. Well, the first one was that we needed more facts and update the information. I had done an earlier study in 2021 on the merits and the issues related to consolidation. So I've updated not only that study, but also conducted a smaller study which just involves MUD 1, 6, and 36. And you all should have received a copy of this by now. We met again on June 12, and by this time our group had now swelled to 12 people. And the consensus of the people that met at the Woodlands Country Club was we should proceed with a smaller study just involving 1, 6, and 36. A little additional background. We have our Georgia's Coffee Club historian here, and Dan Hauser. And George Mitchell helped form or called for the formation of MUDs to finance infrastructure. And it was a vehicle to do this. And Metro MUD was the first one. MUD 6 was the second. MUD 36 was the second. And MUD 6, I think, was the third MUD that was formed. And it was his intention not to keep MUDs forever, but just to use them as a vehicle to finance the infrastructure. And he also felt or spearheaded the formation of the Woodlands Joint Powers Agency or authority to actually perform all the work and the services, which makes the MUDs in the Woodlands fairly unique in that they don't have any employees and they don't have any facilities other than ownership of the pipes in the ground and the drainage ditches. And, you know, with near build out complete, the original function of the MUDs is no longer here, and it's kind of, the time has come to examine why we need to continue MUDs as is. And as you know, every MUD has 5 directors, 50 in total, and there's only 33 employees. So how many companies are you aware of that have more directors than employees? And you all well know that the Woodlands Water Agency and SJRA does all the heavy work and all the lifting, heavy lifting. So what's really left for the MUD directors is to set tax, water, and wastewater rates and issue bonds if in the future they're necessary. But all these activities could easily be accomplished by the Woodlands Water. You don't need MUDs to be able to do this. So they could function without MUDs, but there are political and legal obstacles. And number one is a conflict between the Texas Constitution, Article 8, and the Texas Water Code, Chapter 54. The first one says that any taxing district must issue uniform tax rates to all people in the district. But the Texas Water Code in Chapter 34 permits consolidated MUDs to maintain the tax districts that existed before the consolidation if they're unequal. And since there is no precedent to test this, one of the attorneys told me that the law is not the law until it's been tested in court. And Brian can probably affirm that as well. Another problem with consolidating all 10 MUDs is that it's too much to swallow at one time, and the difficulty in reaching consensus. And under a single consolidated tax rate, if we went that route, some residents would pay more, others would see a decrease in taxes. And the study I did shows that it's a split of about 50-50. And again, the conclusion of the group was that let's go slow and take it one at a time. The consolidation of MUD 1 and 6 makes a great deal of sense. Eric asked me to include MUD 36, which we did, and everything I could do to try to find a way to include them, I ran into some obstacles. But what's common between MUD 1 and 6 is their tax rates. They're very similar. The reserves to connection are extremely close, a difference of only 13%. The net assets of both MUDs are almost identical. The MUD 36 financials and their tax rates are too dissimilar to resolve inclusion at this time. Also, there are too many legal and other uncertainties, and I've talked with MUD 6 directors about that. However, the door should be kept open for future inclusion of MUD 36 when the issues or differences are narrowed or resolved. Here's a statement of the economics. It's almost $100,000 of just consolidating MUD 1 and 6, which is not a huge number. And actually, I think I understated this a bit because I used a white collar labor rate of $33, which is probably low for the people here, particularly since the general manager makes over $1 million a year. So that would boost up the average labor
I
rate.
need to adjust the minutes.
And I also used a relatively low burden rate of 35%. So the labor portion of this is probably a little bit greater. But there are really more significant benefits than just economic. They are elimination of a tax district, the elimination of all the staff time that is spent at meetings. And it makes, by eliminating that staff time, it makes more time available for resident services. And a reduction in the burdensome oversight from 50 directors. And finally, pooled stronger reserves for future projects and emergencies. There are negatives of consolidation, and I want to address those at this time. One comment I've heard from many directors is a perceived reduction in representation. Well, it's my opinion, and those in the peanut gallery here who worked with me, is that it is simply not true. First of all, MUD 46 and 47 are both larger than a combined MUD 1 and 6. And the residents don't complain about inadequate representation on these two MUDs. And no one ever complained about loss of representation after MUD 2 and MUD 40 were consolidated. And in any event, residents typically call Woodlands Water with problems or needs. And if you get a call from a resident, what do? Well, you do what I've always done in the past when I've had, in my 15 years, I can think of only 3 times a resident approached me about a problem or an issue. And what did I do? I just called Eric, or I called Jim Stinson, and they would handle it. And lastly, few residents ever attend the MUD meetings. Other negatives include the cost and effort of educating voters and hosting an election. Payback would be less than a year. So that's my response to that. And last is what I call inertia. Things are fine as it is. And the old Pennsylvania Dutch saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, we're looking at an improvement here. There's nothing wrong with the organization, but I think we can do a better job with fewer directors. Okay, why should you approve consolidation? Well, the number one concern of our group is that to disapprove consolidation is denying residents the right to decide. And also could be viewed as self-serving. You have to have a good reason to deny consolidation. And hopefully I've convinced you that there are no good reasons not to consolidate. In 2021, or 2016, when MUD 2 and 40 consolidated, there was overwhelming support from residents in both of the 2 MUDs. And in 2016, when first attempt was made to merge 1 and 6, MUD 1 voters approved it by about 55%. But MUD 6 voters disapproved it by a mere 20 votes out of 848 votes that were cast. And I attribute this to lack of educating the residents, negative campaigning by a few people, and a poorly worded ballot. And even more significant was the undervotes. I don't have a count of the undervotes. But an undervote on a ballot means that the resident doesn't know enough on either side, for or against, and so they just don't vote at all. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Or any comments from the peanut gallery that would like to add? Go ahead, Dan.
First off, I'm here to thank Bob for all he's done, the efforts he's put in through the years on this. He's done a great job. I come here a little conflicted with respect but concern. I've owned 9 homes in the Woodlands. I've been in 5 different MUD districts, in the area. I was former president of MUD 36. I was on the originating board for the JPA as we formed it, Michael, and on the directorship, a smaller directorship. I think we have 5 MUDs at the time, and we never envisioned how this thing would evolve. Never envisioned it to be like it is today, with different tax rates and different fees and different philosophies on reserves and not having reserves, keeping the tax rate down with the fee raise up. I think we never envisioned that conflict as it moved forward. So I just encourage you, a couple of things. One, keep an open mind, okay? Don't close your mind to these subjects. Take your board hat off And put yourself in George Mitchell's situation in 1974, 5, when this was put together. He looked at one group, one Woodlands, one township, or WCA at the time, and one group of mud directors working together as a group for the best interest of our community, and not just my constituency or 12 different constituencies that we have today. It's take off your hat, use your common sense. If I look at you as stealth leaders of this community, by that meaning no one knows you exist or where you are to a large degree. You have very little. This is standing room only today. Okay. And they don't know. The only time they know about you is when the bill comes in December and they have to pay it. And I know I lived in one area where the rate was this, and another area the rate was this, and confusing, but we lived through it. But I again want to thank Bob. Just want you to keep an open mind and think about what you would do if you weren't a director and you were a citizen of this community and you looked at us as a whole, not as pieces. Okay. And I just ask that consideration. I thank you. Respect what you do. Appreciate it.
Jim?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Jim Stinson. I sat where Eric sat for many, many years. And I can tell you, it makes so much, Dan used the word common sense, to merge, consolidate MUDs when their tax rates, their financial balance sheets get in line. It's just a common sense, appropriate thing to do. I feel so strongly about it that I would encourage you to look at your mission, vision statements and your critical success factors and incorporate that into those documents in some way, that as MUD's tax rates and reserves and assets get similar, that it's only the logical thing to do to merge those MUDs or consolidate those MUDs. I just did a little math in my head. The time I spent here attending MUD meetings was well over 3,000 MUD meetings. Now, surely there's a better path forward than to do that, continue to do that. And Bob's done a great job putting this information together. I would encourage you to go back and study it and think about it and ask questions if you have them. But it's just the common sense thing to do when the financial and the tax rates align. Do that consolidation. Thank you.
And you can also look at the agendas of MUD 1 and 6 too. They're virtually identical. I think Walt said one time they were identical, except the title.
Was the only difference.
No. So, anybody have any questions?
Is Peter here? Is he going to be speaking?
Peter Perez?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's right here.
Would you like to, were you going to talk about
Let me just
consult?
say one thing. Yeah, as a former, recently fired director of MUD 36, I was appointed to that position. I was never elected. I'm not one to go out and bang on doors to be elected to anything. And when I got into MUD 36, with the help of Eric and his wonderful staff here, I went back almost 20 years in minutes and to find out why MUD 36 really was in the worst financial shape of any of the MUDs in the community. And I know why, all right? And I have presented it to MUD 36, and I presented it to anybody who would listen to me. Why? In my opinion, the only way to get MUD 36 involved in this, and they should be involved, is a rollback election. I know that's a bad, Brian says, don't say the rollback election. But anyway, is a rollback election. So MUD 36 should be involved, but until they straighten out their act financially, they will not be able to participate. One other thing about MUD 36, and that is they do need the guidance, the financial guidance of you guys that know how to run a municipality district like this. They need that so that they can stay in some kind of good financial shape. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And Chris Reynolds? All right, thank you. We've been discussing this since April, and maybe even a little bit before, as board members. Does any director or anyone else in the room, any of the staff, want to add any comments?
Yeah, I have some comments on it. You know, there's probably not one of us in this room that can look at the form of government that we have with Congress and Senate and everything else and say, boy, we need term limits because of the structure that's in place. And you know, I have to say what Dan said, you know, we need to look at it also with inside the Woodlands. What's best for our community? And to have 50 MUD directors and 10 meetings a month, this doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's time that we look at, we're all together and on a fun side, boy, you know, I could flush the toilet up at the Gary Player course, and by the time it gets to the wastewater treatment plant, it's been through 5 different MUDs. So if something happens in one of those other MUDs, everybody's affected. So anything that happens now, we're all affected in the Woodlands. We're one community now. It's no different than the Bear Branch Dam. You know, there were 5 MUDs that were responsible, but then we all stepped up to the plate and said, hey, if that thing fails, it's going to affect all the Woodlands, including MUD 1, including MUD 6. And as Bob said too, if you go to MUD 6 meeting, it's exactly the same. I attended the meeting. The only difference was they don't start with a pledge of allegiance. We do, but everything is exactly the same. You can get these meetings over in 25 minutes if you want to, even less than that. It just doesn't make sense for the residents to have to basically pay for all these MUD directors, all the staff time. You know, the staff needs to be concentrating on the residents out there. Not worried whether or not we've got a breakfast in the morning and whether we've got a dinner at night and things of that nature. So it just makes common sense of what's best for the residents. And then the other thing, the residents are going to be the ones that are going to support it. What our job should be, let's give them that opportunity. If they want to keep it the way it is, fine. They had an opportunity to make that decision. We should not be the ones that make that decision for them. It just makes common sense what we should do for the residents.
Thank you all. Is there anyone else?
I think this was said before, but in my eyes, and Bob, thank you for all of your hard work on this. Reading it reminds me, my grandfather built a house here in 1974. My mom rode around on a golf cart, like looking for trash cans. That evolved into the township. So this seems like an evolution that's going to we need to do it as small and in small increments. We can't, you know, do all 10 MUDs at one time, but this is going to happen eventually in our community. So I think we need to be open to it and let the residents decide if this is what they want to do at this time. The township was, I don't know how many villages at that time. We weren't completely built out before we had a township, but there was a time when we didn't have a township and we had village associations and all of this. So it seems very similar in my brain of evolution of the form of government.
Thank you, Mindy. Anyone else? Well, I have a couple comments from the presentation. First, outstanding study, Bob, and great presentation. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. You mentioned that, and originally, this was not intended to be permanent. The MUDs were not intended to be permanent. The original function was to assist in paying for infrastructure as growth occurred in the community. And that was necessary and it was accomplished. However, I think what we're finding is there's a new function, and that is civilian oversight of a governmental agency. I think we've found that residents do want to be represented. And you can see that over the course of the past 3 election cycles. We now have 36 directors that identify themselves as residents first, and of the 45 elected. So I think there's a clear, loud voice that we get from those elections. And now that we have a larger mass, I think we're starting to find the benefits. We're seeing a change in attitude at the River Authority. They seem to be more inclusive and willing to work with board members. It seemed to me and a lot of other people, voters and a lot of the 36 board directors, that it looked like the River Authority would make their studies and decide what they wanted to do, present it to the boards. And the boards looked at it all and said, okay, well, the numbers look good, and they'd approve everything, mostly. What we didn't see was the internal process at the River Authority. We got an outstanding briefing, white paper, I guess, from Ed recently that explained that to a better degree. What it didn't include was what residents would see on the decisions. Like why are there few options presented, or when options were presented, they were generally only mentioned if they weren't the option that the River Authority experts chose. I think what we found is that the more gray matter you have to work with time, the better solution you can get. If you have no time, then sometimes one person needs to make this decision and go with it. And that's my pilot upbringing. There are some things that you can query a crew for. How do we want to deal with this? But bottom line is, if the airplane's going crazy, one person can right the ship and needs to take control and do that. We're not in that. We do have time to evaluate. We just spent months tearing apart a 506-page document from HDR to find out that we don't really need to, in this 10-year plan, we don't really need to replace pipelines with 15 to 20-year or 25-year RULs, remaining useful life. So we discussed this with the River Authority, and guess what? They agreed. So this is much more of a partnership in working going forward. So I think the original intent may have been growth and providing infrastructure. But now it's a different thing. Now it's, look, we are a community. We have needs, and we want to attend to those needs in the best possible way. And we would like more data and more information before making decisions. We'd like options to consider. So we get this right now, I think, with a greater number of directors, especially directors that are asking more pertinent questions, perhaps, than were done in the past. So I think that consolidation, yes, will come, but we're not there yet. We need to see the continued trend of cooperation going forward. Once we're solid with that trend, think that's the time to revisit consolidation, but I don't think it's right now.
You're still gonna have oversight. You're just not gonna have 10 people doing oversight with 2 months. You're gonna have 5 people doing it. So there's still gonna be oversight. And by the way, how many votes do you think there are in Mud One alone?
They're about 20, little over 2,600.
It's 2,600.
No, excuse me. That's just in precinct 48.
There's over 5,000
Right.
voters. Okay.
Right.
Less than 12% voted. Okay, you ended up with what, 198 votes? That's not a vast majority of everybody out there voting. So, to come up with this stuff all the time, just saying big changes were made. I mean, half the people don't even, the old Bud elections used to be 15, 20 people voted.
Because they were held in this.
Well, it's still, it was a legal way of doing it. There's still gonna be oversight. We're just not gonna do it with 10 people. We're gonna do it with 5 people.
I think we're getting political too here. This is the second meeting of SADA where you refer to 36 board members that care about the residents and assuming the other the other board members don't, which is insulting, by the way. And I think we need to get back to what Bob was presenting. It makes sense on paper. It makes sense to let the voters decide. It feels like you've already decided, and these other 36 board members, y'all have like meetings together to get together.
Okay.
This is not a partisan.
This is not
There's not red pipes
the
out there,
political
not blue
group.
pipes out there. And you're trying to make it into.
We're a representative group.
I can tell you, my opinion is not political. I like the model. I like citizen representation. I do not like power to be held in the hands of very few people. I know democracy is messy and autocracy is much more efficient, but democracy works long-term and autocracy doesn't. So, I'm opposed to the merger.
Okay, well, does anybody else have any?
I would like to address some of the questions, and you talk about 36 people being representative of the citizens. I'm going to say that there's 50 people because the citizens elected all 50 directors. And what you're suggesting is that 50 heads are better than 45. I'm not sure anybody would necessarily agree with that. And again, present the facts to the residents. If you feel strongly that we need all 10 MUDs, that the function has changed, make that point to the residents and then let them decide. Again, I think as Walt and everybody said here, I don't think that the directors should assume what the residents want. Give them both sides of the story. What you say, put it in writing, let's get it out to the residents, and then let them decide. To make a decision here, again, as I said earlier, is denying, if you say you truly represent the residents. Well, if you make a unilateral decision here not to approve consolidation, how do you know that you are representing residents? That's my opinion. How many people have you talked to that have expressed support for maintaining 50 directors over 33 employees? And the more heads that are better is not necessarily true. It just bogs things down. And you only have to look to Washington to see how things can be bogged down when you got too many people trying to stir the soup. So let the residents decide. And if you're correct and the residents agree with you, then they have made the decision. But don't make the decision for them without hearing and having them make a vote. So you have the right now, because it's not on the ballot, you can disseminate as much information you want. But if the word gets out that Mud 1 and Mud 6 have unilaterally decided that the public is either not capable or not educated. That's a wrong decision. And in my opinion, you're not representing the residents.
Were these questions rhetorical, or would you like some answers to? You listed several questions. I'd like to address one comment. Under the negatives, you had public education. We don't think public education is a negative. We think public education is a requirement. And we have been educating them, and we're going to continue to educate them. We have what you presented is excellent, but there's also another side, another opinion. We do feel like we're serving the people because we are providing what is needed, but we believe in a more responsible manner. So if we're wrong, we'll be voted out of office when our next term is up. And hey, I'm good with that. If I'm not representing my constituents properly, I'll find something else to do and make the way for someone else who the people want. I'm good with that.
Steve,
That's
can I
what
ask a
this whole
question
system is about.
on that? When I read that as a negative, I perceived it as it would be hard to educate, or we would have a short window, or how would we do that? Not that we don't want to educate people. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't see that as we don't want to educate the public on that list.
Well, one of the things of education is you present information and let the residents make conclusions based on the information. Now you can get, and you probably should present your viewpoints as a persuasive. That's why we have editorials, so this is one editorial, the one that we've seen, but we're preparing editorials as well. And we're going to get it all there. The people are going to see what you presented, Bob. We're not going to hide it, but we're going to show another opinion and present that. And this will be done before the next election. And like you say, let the people decide.
Who's we?
Huh?
Who's we?
Yeah, I like that. Who's we? I mean, you belong to some group or something besides Mud 1?
Well, we are part of a group that have been overwhelmingly offered these seats by voters. That's who we are.
They voted you in because you don't want to consolidate. That's the platform you were running on.
That's
No,
what all elections.
that
are
is
about.
not. That is not.
Representatives that
Okay.
represent the populace. You cannot have a popular vote for everything that is decided in this committee. I mean, you basically, they're instilling their trust in somebody that can, monitor what's going on, do the research.
Are
that
we
they
following
can't.
like Open Meetings Act and things with 36 MUD directors meeting and coming up with other things on the side?
Well, I don't know what, discussions that, Steve referring to, or if they involve active board members versus not. But I think at this point, in this meeting, what I can say is we have an agenda item about consider and act. And so I think there's been robust discussion, let's put it that way.
Agreed.
And so if there's a motion on the matter, we can consider that motion. Otherwise, we probably need to move on to.
Thank you, Brian. I totally agree.
I'd like to make a motion that we act on consolidation of Mud 1 and Mud 6. I second.
You second? Okay.
Act, when you say act on the consolidation, what action to proceed with?
That we proceed with the discussion with Mud 6 about consolidations.
Okay. It sounds as though the motion is to approve consolidation between MUD 1 and MUD 6 only.
No, he didn't say approve. Said,
I said to open talks, I mean, basically the open talks with Mud Six about consolidation.
I withdraw my second thing.
I second, the voters need to approve this.
Okay, since we have people watching, I recommend we vote by show of hands. Okay, all those in favor of Walt's motion, please raise your hand. Those opposed? It looks as though it's opposed, and we will not be discussing incorporation at this time.
Consolidation.
Oops,
I know.
slip of the tongue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Consolidation. Thank you very much. Okay,
I can tell you this much. I'm gonna continue this fight outside this meeting. And, you know, I'll start with the township, public comments. And
okay,
I'll make sure every resident knows the three people that are totally against giving them an opportunity to vote.
thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, let's move on to,
Back to 11.
let's come back to item 11. Receive and discuss the draft FY 2027 SJRA Woodlands Division budget. That's on page 33 to 80 of your package.
You have Haley here, who's going to give some highlights and go from there.
Thank you, Pete.
Good morning, everyone. So as y'all know, we normally give the full presentation to the trustees and then we come to the MUDs for Q&A unless you want to request the full presentation. So I will start with the highlights of the trustees and the budget. And if you have any questions or if you want me to give the full presentation, just let me know. So the highlights, we are proposing a 1% rate increase to the water and sewer rate. And so that would move our water rate to $2.75, the wastewater rate to $5.70, and the blended fee to $2.83. That is the main highlight of this. There were some questions at the trustees meeting, so we will present some information this week about the impact of some of the things they asked about. And then in July, we will come back to ask for your vote to direct your trustee to vote in the trustees meeting in August to approve our budget. That is the highlights I have for y'all. If you have any questions or if you want more information, just let me know.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you so much. And then next we have,
Item 12, we're going to defer today. We're going through some potential revisions to the trustees, so that's going to be taken up by the trustees and then hope to bring that to the MUDs for discussion next month.
okay, so we don't need to go into closed session probably either. All right.
Yeah, let's keep this on the agenda for next month.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we are now at item 14, the attorney's report.
The only item I have of a general nature is a reminder, if you haven't completed your cybersecurity and your AI training, if you're doing both of those, just make sure to get that done. Deadline again is August 31st, but if you're like most folks, including me, if I was in your shoes in the summertime, that will quickly fall down, if not off your to-do list. So sooner rather than later would be my suggestion. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Also need to cover the 15 if you want me to.
Please.
15, order adopting or establishing meeting places outside the district. So I believe we talked about this at a previous meeting. It may have been before, George, you were on the board, that we had previously, anytime you have a meeting place that's outside the district, the water code requires you adopt an order, it designates that location, and you have to publish a notice in the newspaper to advise the public of these meeting places outside the district. We had a meeting place across the street there at the community center. That's obviously no longer there. So in order to have a venue for larger meetings or meetings out in the community, we have to change that location. So Eric has identified the new Kevin Brady Library as an out-of-district meeting location in addition to this building, which is outside the district. We also have the township's office designated, as well as the River Authority's Woodlands Division office. Should, we need to have a meeting out there to get a presentation from them on some subjects. So 4 out-of-district locations in this order, and then it will be published in the newspaper after your adoption. Need a motion to approve.
I move we approve new locations.
And motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 16 is receive and act on the general manager's report.
Good morning. General manager report starts on page 81 in your packet. As you can see, a lot of work's going on at the moment. We have about 189 active projects. Those include new and redevelopments, commercial and residential, schools, lots of different things going on. That's where we'll receive drawings, review them, make sure that they are up to code, and then inspect them once they're completed. About 189 of those right now. We have about, I think, 19 customer service inspections as a result of those last month as well, and about 1,000 work orders across the Woodlands last month. Did want to point out that AWBD conference is this weekend, starting on Thursday. It'll be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So a handful of us are going up there to Grapevine for that. So it should be a good conference and looking forward to that.
Is that where you're going to receive your award for Water Smart?
Yes.
I got that.
Yes, they'll, yeah, each of the Woodlands MUDs received recognition of Water Smart Award. And typically what they'll do is they'll identify all the winners at the luncheon and throw out all the names of the winners.
And Mud will be represented. So that's
okay. We did have new director orientation last Friday. I think that went very well. It was just over about 2.5 hours long. So we went through a lot of information. Brian and I and staff put together information on all the various things that we do, where we came from, and all of that. So a lot of information, but I think it went pretty well for those that were there. Let's see. I did want to point out in your packet, we have an employee with an anniversary. We always put these in here.
47.
Yeah, 47 years for Dan Kennard. And before that, he worked for the Woodlands when it first started. So he's seen every pipe going in the ground in this since the beginning, 52 years.
Literally.
Pretty well, literally, that's right. Also included a number of different thank yous from residents. When we collect those, just kind of love to share those with you, and when we see that come in from residents. And finally, I will throw it to John for a communications update.
Good morning. Let's see, page 95. Report. So we're now in the third quarter of our strategic plan, focuses on water conservation being the summer months. And you can see they're up top there. Our primary points of emphasis since we met last have been, in addition to water conservation, reporting on the mud elections, water quality. So we got CCRs coming out here in just a couple weeks. So we'll do a lot more on that. Make sure folks are seeing those. Lawn and landscape care, big topic this time of year. We wrapped up our Kids Art Contest. So we're promoting the winners on that. Each winner won a gift certificate for their one classroom for art supplies. So that's always fun. Infrastructure renewal remaining in steady rotation. Of course, the defined irrigation schedule, continuing to remind folks that that is in effect as always. You've got examples of current advertising and marketing materials here on the next couple pages. And then being a new quarter, I always like to bring forward performance stats on our various platforms. And you can see those reflected on page 96, or sorry, 96 and 97. Any questions?
Great job.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, receive the Woodlands Water Trustee Report. And you,
Basically, it's exactly what we're going over, except for what Brian and I are going to talk about next time, I guess, right?
okay.
You're gonna talk about what?
Well, we can't discuss.
Not yet, not yet. They went into closed session.
I got it.
Okay, all right, moving on to item 18. Do we need to recess to close?
Not today.
Okay, so there's nothing to do there. Discuss any matters for placement on future agenda. Anyone have anything they'd like to see on a future agenda? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.